50s.
Oh my god, young!
Yeah, my mum had me when she was quite young.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When you start Ramadan?
Good question. In
Oh,
3 days.
did you Ramadan?
Yeah.
How do you find it?
I find it good.
Yeah?
It's challenging, but it's
Should
fun.
we put our water bottles away when we
No,
start?
nothing like that. Not that intense, but it's not bad. 3 days actually, I think it's up. Yeah.
And you do it for a full month?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nuts. But sorry, Adam, but we still want the spotlight from you.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
So today I'm going to go through some programming methods to keep in your toolbox. So there's heaps of ways to
John, Matt's got the mic anyway. Don't worry about it.
That's right. There's heaps of ways to program for your clients, but I thought I would kind of give just 4 that I have found pretty useful and easy to use in my experience working with a variety of clientele. But first, what current programming options do we use with our clients? Jules?
Might do like split days, so push day, pull day. Those on that? Like
Not really, that's more structure, but like in terms of like a method being like rated perceived exertion, like do you use RPEs? Do
Alright,
you use
yeah. RPE, reps in reserve.
Anything else?
Different like tempos, so you might get them to hold an exercise at a certain point, or hold, yeah.
That's probably more like inter-rep stuff. But like any specific method.
I don't know, I'm kind of confused now by the question. How do you interpret it?
Like do you use percentage of a 1RM? Do you use, like you said you
nah.
used before,
I usually
RPEs
just
and
use
stuff?
RIR and
RPEs?
yeah,
Yep.
RPE. I don't really use work with many
Yep.
heavy lifting clients that would justify using percentage of RM, to be honest.
Dino?
Majority of clients are probably rep and reserve or RPE. There's a couple I use, I have used percentage based, and that's just because they're probably we've actually done proper RM testing. What else have I done? Indirectly, like similar to RPE, I use like a Borg scale, that's more just for condition specific.
So the 6 to 20. Yeah.
More
Yep.
condition specific.
Zach?
I guess you use a pain scale of some sort. Use a max heart rate, RPE, those sorts of things.
Yep. Cool. Alright, so these are like ones that have been thrown around. So the double progression model is something we'll go through today. You can use pyramid sets, drop sets, Maya reps, EMOMs, cluster sets. You can use AMRAPs, percentage of 1RMs, RPE, reps in reserve, Wendler 531, and top single and back offs. There's thousands of programming methods that you can use with your clients, but today I'm going to take you through the double progression model, percentage of 1RM, RPE based training, and reps in reserve. So they're the ones that I've probably used the most in my time coaching. I've done a little bit using cluster sets and EMOMs. Pyramids and drop sets are more for like just trying to get in some extra volume, but those ones I have previously used in the past. So that's what we're going to go through today. So to start with, what are we doing when undertaking strength training?
Putting our muscles under stress.
Good.
Loading muscle fibers. Or some micro tears.
Good.
We are
What are we
lifting
doing?
weights.
When doing strength training, what are we doing? Zach?
Recruiting muscle fibers, time over tension.
Cool. All right. So there's one key word that Zach used, and I think Charlie might have said it, is we're applying tension to the system to create skeletal muscular neurological change. That's essentially what we're doing. So when we're getting someone to apply force into something, we are getting them to apply tension to the system. So then, a follow-up question. Does it matter how that tension is created? Explain. I agree. Explain.
Because you can get the tension in different ways and different methods. So
True.
You can load the system in multiple ways. It just depends on what stimulus you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, and what current capacities they have
And what
at
they
the
can
time.
tolerate.
Yeah, at the time of applying tension. So Dean, I 100% agree. Is that initially no. So does it matter how we create tension? I don't think it does. Why? Because muscle is dumb meat and it doesn't know the difference where the tension's been created using a kettlebell, a barbell, Pilates reformer, a band, a dumbbell, whatever that intervention tool is, right? It's like when you're increasing your effort and you feel your heart rate go up, right? It doesn't matter whether you're running, you're playing football, you're doing swimming, you're on the assault bike. What your cardiac system knows is that my output is increasing, and in order for me to maintain this output, I need to increase blood flow, increase my heart rate. I need to do all these things from a system point of view to keep up what I'm doing. Same thing is applied. So your heart doesn't know whether you're doing sprints or whether you're playing football. What it knows is that you're working harder than your baseline. And in order for me to maintain that output, I need to increase my effort to help maintain that. Does that kind of make sense? Right? But, so initially no, but to keep making changes, we need to apply progressive overload. Right? So if you apply a tension onto the system, right, in order to keep making that system more adaptable, stronger, fitter, whatever, we need to somehow apply a harder tension, greater tension, more tension, whatever you want to call it. We need to apply a greater stimulus in order for adaptations to still occur. Right? So when you're working with a client, right, it doesn't matter how you're creating tension, right? But in order for that person to keep adapting, they can't keep doing the same thing, right? They need to be able to we need to be able to increase the stimulus so they can keep adapting, getting stronger over a long period of time. Agree? Disagree? George, looking at me. Yeah?
Agree.
Agree? All right.
Just like processing it.
We've got a history lesson. Who knows Milo from Crotop?
Yeah.
Dano, you want to give us a bit of a story about Milo?
I can't remember the full context, but all I know is that literally that's the picture that we use a lot at uni when explaining how progressive overload affects someone.
Beauty. So Milo from Croton is I think he's a Greek athlete from 540 BC or something like that. But the story goes is that for a year, Milo from Croton carried a bull up a hill every day. I think he did it actually for 4 years or something like that. But as the bull got bigger, so did Milo from Croton. To the point where Milo from Croton looks pretty jacked in the cartoon. Right? But this is where like the origins of progressive overload come into it. So that in order for us to keep laying down new muscle tissue, improving our neural drive, improving tendon health, all those kinds of things, we need to be able to apply greater stimulus to the individual in order to keep making changes. Right? We can't expect them to get really good outcomes from doing 3 sets of 6 at 50 kilos on a bench press and then getting them to do that for 2 years and expecting them to keep having the same amount of changes that they were having at the first 6 weeks. Right? We need to do something about it so that we are applying more tension to the system in a controlled way. All right, so example, 3x8. We've given this a lot. I've given it a lot. Is there anything wrong with that? No?
Not without context.
Beauty, not without context. So, what's the difference?
You got a target amount of what you're lifting, you got an intensity, you got a weapon reserve.
Beauty. So I've put parameters around 3 sets of 8. Okay. All I've done is given examples of constraints to make the 3x8 as effective as I can. Because you can do 3 sets of 8 and do them crazily easily. Right? I don't know why I said that. It's super easy. But I could say, all right, Dino, you're going to do 3 sets of 8. Your percentage of right RM, you're going to do it at 70%. Or your RPE is going to be at a 7 out of 10. Or I want you to feel like you've got 2 or 3 reps in reserve. Right? So the biggest difference between that one and that one is there's no variables. So when you're getting someone to do 3 sets of 8, and they say, how heavy should I lift? And you're going, I don't know, whatever you feel like, right? Or you just have to apply, you don't have to apply all of these, but you can apply one. And what you're doing is you're setting intensity markers, you're providing a constraint to get them to do the whatever exercise you're wanting them to do at the intensity that you want them to, right? And all you've done is just provide constraints. So there's nothing actually wrong with 3 sets of 8, but all we've done is add the constraints. So when you're writing programs and you're just writing 3 sets of 8 reps, I would argue that there's nothing wrong with 3 sets of 8, but applying some sort of a constraint or guideline as to reps in reserve, RPE, percentage of 1RM, whatever you're looking at doing, may provide more bang for their buck doing 3 sets of 8. Right? Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So some methods that I have, or that I currently and have used with clients. So the double progression model I've used for a while, and I think it's very, very good, and particularly early doors with clients. So that's probably the model that I use with new people or new clients. Percentage of 1RM or percentage of RM I haven't touched for a couple of years, since I have probably taken on more of a BPS approach to things, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit later on. The RPE based approach is something that I really, really like, because I believe in the biopsychosocial model of health. And reps in reserve, I think the RPE and reps in reserve work together to kind of help understand. So they're the ones that we're going to discuss today. Hopefully by the end of today, you can apply some of these models with the people that you work with. So double progression model. Double progression is a method in which you first increase the number of reps within a specific rep range before increasing the weight. Once you reach the upper limit of the rep range, you increase the weight and start again at the lower end of the rep range. Okay, so for example, hey?
I was just thinking, I actually never knew what it was called.
You've indirectly done it?
I've
Yeah,
indirectly
cool. So, say for example, you're going to do, Charlie, you're going to do a back squat, right? This is on one day, right? So I may, or your coach may prescribe, you're going to do 4 sets of 5 to 8 reps, right? The first set you might do at 100 kilos, right? You may then go, right, that 100 kilos was pretty easy for 5. My second set, I'm going to do 8 by 100, right? So you've hit the upper end of your rep range. You may then go, you know what, I've still got more in the tank. I'm going to increase it to 105, right? You may then hit 6 reps at 105. Then you go, oh, actually, that kind of still felt easy. In my 4th set, I'm going to go to 8 reps. So you're not only increasing just the weight or just the reps, you can increase both, right? So I actually like explaining this to people. I think on the machines it's very, very easy, right? They start off with the chest press, right? I say, all right, you're going to do anywhere from 6 to 10 reps. I said if it feels good at 6, go to 8. If 8 feels good, go to 10. But you're going to stop at 10, right? So if they put it on pin 15 and they get to 10 reps, I go, how was that? They say it was easy. All I do is I put the pin down to the next one, and I get them to repeat the process, right? Very easy way of driving intensity, driving stimulus, making sure that they're coming in and they're starting to train hard, right? How it could look over a 5-week block. So I use 5 weeks generally as my programming blocks is that you may say, right, in weeks, my head's blocking it, but you may say in weeks 1 to 3 you're going to do 6 to 10 reps, but in weeks 4 to 5 you're going to do 5 to 8. Okay? Weeks 1 to 3, 6 is the minimum, 10 is the max. Week 4 and 5, 5 is the minimum, 8 is the max. Okay, so if you hit the upper end of your rep range at a given weight, you make it harder, or you put the weight down, or you increase the weight, put the pin down, and you essentially start the process again. Now you can do this forever, right? Really easy way of driving intensity. And, as I'll speak kind of later on, it's really easy way of seeing quick wins. So if a client comes in 1 week and does 22.5 for 6 reps on the chest press, but then the next week comes and does 22.5 for 10 reps, she's like, oh, I'm already starting to see quick change, right? So it starts to build buy-in, right? So I quite like this. Percentage of 1 RM. The percentage of RM method uses the understanding of what a client's repetition max is for a particular exercise, then establishes programming variables around the percentage. Right, so here's an example of a person's 1 rep max whose 1 rep max is 155. You've got your percentages, you've got your percentages down the bottom, right? Based on the percentage, what the weight would be and what their estimated reps they could do, right? So you may come in and say, right, so Dino, I'm going to use you as an example.
Not yourself.
Huh? Not myself. Dino, you're going to do 4 sets of 6 at 80% of your 1 RM, right? You want 4 sets of 6 at 80%, right? 124. That's what Dino's doing for today, right? So for people who are very numbers driven, again, I'll talk about the pros and cons, but for people who are very numbers driven and who want to know exactly what they're going to do on the day that they come in, percentage of 1 RM could be something that you use because they go, right, I know exactly what I'm going to do on this exercise. Okay? What's one of the problems with this or with this method? What do you think?
Most people that probably generally we see were probably not doing 1 RM testing. And
Good.
then you've got a predicted amount of what their 1 RM would be.
Good. So you've got an estimated 1 RM.
So it's
Not a
as
true 1 RM value,
accurate.
right? The other thing is, this method doesn't take into account how they feel on the day. So regardless of how you feel on the day, your day is going to do 124. Now you could feel absolutely great and feel like 6 reps flies, or you could feel absolute shit and still do 124. It's not taking into account how you feel on the day, right? So this is very much like what we call like a top down, right? So I'm giving all the prescription and you just have to do this, whereas like the other method is a little bit more bottoms up. I'm giving you the flexibility of being like, if it feels good, these are the ways that you can increase it. So there's a little bit more autonomy given to the client rather than me being like, you have to do this, this is what you're doing today regardless of how you feel today. Okay? RPE-based approach. RPE-based approach uses the RPE scale to determine how hard that specific exercise is meant to be for that specific training day or week. Okay, so again, using your back squat, single training day, we might do first set and second set are meant to be at an RPE 6, right, which should feel something that is pretty hard. And then your third and fourth set could be like at an RPE 7, which is just maybe a little bit harder than hard. Okay? How it could look over a 5-week block is that you might, if you're, say for example, teaching someone a new pattern, a new movement, the first week you do it, you might be like, right, we're just going to work at an RPE 6. Week 2 and 3, you could do it at an RPE 7. Week 4 and 5, you could do it at an RPE 8. Right? So that's how it could look. One thing I didn't go through was how it could look from a percentage of 1 RM, how it could look from a 5-week progression. Generally with percentage of 1 RM, there is like a linear progression. You are building up into doing, whether it's a heavy 3, heavy 1, heavy 5, whatever. So you could start at 80% and work your way down, or get closer to 95% as an example. all good so far? Makes sense? Cool. Reps in reserve based approach. So the RIR based approach is asking the client how many more reps could you do before you fail, right? This method is used in conjunction with the RPE based approach. That's where I found it to be really kind of successful. I've put in brackets technical failure because I think it's a little bit of a nicer term because, like, particularly for a new client who may not understand how they're going to pull up when, like, they train, all that kind of stuff, getting someone to go to, like, you're not going to have any reps left in the tank, I would say early doors is pretty rogue. But, so technical failure means that something about the lift that they're doing is changing. So whether they're, I don't know, like they're doing a shoulder press and you're noticing that their left arm isn't moving as fast as their right, for example, right? That's just an example. Or when they're doing a push-up and you're noticing that their trunk is starting to extend, for example, right? We're looking at technical failure. They can still keep going doing that exercise, but they're not going to the point where they physically can't push themselves up, okay? So you could use it that. When you get clients who are a little bit more comfortable with the gym, have had a couple of blocks of training, this is where we've used like the AMRAP method in the past to determine what a true RPE 10 is, right? Now, if their RPE is a 10, their reps in reserve should be 0. If they've actually hit failure on a seated row, for example, and they physically can't pull the cable towards them, they don't have any more left in the tank. So I think when suitable, doing something like a proper set to failure teaches the client, or better helps the client understand what an RPE 10 is and what it's like to have nothing left in the tank. And if they can better understand that, then they better know, okay, this feels like a 7 instead of like my old 7 being like, I've got 15 reps left in the tank. Does that kind of make sense? So how it could look on a single training day. So your first and second set, you could set a parameter of having them feel like they've got 4 reps left in the tank. Set 3 and 4, you could say, right, you're going to feel like you have 3 reps left in the tank. Over a 5-week block, you might just drop the reps in reserve 1 every second week, for example. So if you're seeing that reps in reserve go down, your load should go the other way, okay, as an example. All right, pros and cons of each. So I've highlighted RPE-based approach and reps in reserve because I think they kind of work well together. The double progression model, so I think the positives is that, as I said, very easy for clients to see small wins. Okay, they can see that last week I did 6 reps at 22.5, this week I did 10 reps at 22.5, I feel like I'm improving, right? Very easy to get quick wins. I think it's really easy for beginners, it's very repeatable, works with all exercises, and you can have quick wins. What I think sometimes it's like, it can be not a negative, but it can take a bit of time for clients to understand, right? Is that, oh, okay, so I've hit 10, I can stay at 10, or I can go to 6, or I can go to 7, or 8, or 9, or 10. So I can do anything kind of in between that. Yes, but, so that's where I think it can be a little bit funny, but I think if you explain it well, this method can be done for forever. Percentage of 1RM. So as I said before, if you've got clients who are very like analytical and want to know exactly what they want to do on the day, maybe a RPE percentage of 1RM or RM load is appropriate. Clients know exactly what weight they're meant to do for that day, right? Great for numbers-based people. So for people who really love numbers and want to see numbers on their program, great avenue for it. What I don't think, why I've probably started to go away from it is, it doesn't take into account how people present on the day. So if people have had, so we know that exercise increases stress on the system, but if people have had a very stressful day, very wound up from work, and all we're doing is then applying more stress to the system, is that the answer that they need on the day, right? For this percentage RM to work as it's meant to, ideally you perform a 1 RM to understand their values, right? So if you're basing I want you to work at 70% of your 1 RM for a dumbbell shoulder press, in theory, you should have performed a 1 RM dumbbell shoulder press, right? Doesn't work with all exercises, I don't think, right? Because what does it
10 RM
mean?
Cable crunch.
Huh?
10 RM cable crunch.
Well, that means you have, based on that, you have to do a 1 RM on a cable crunch. If you're prescribing 60% of your 1 RM on a cable crunch, you have to have done some sort of 1 RM cable crunch, 5 RM cable, whatever it might be, right?
So
The RPE-based approach and RIR, I've kind of put the same things, but I quite like them because it works well with what I believe in that it takes into account how the client feels on the day, right? So a 7 out of 10 on one day could feel really good, and a 7 out of 10 on another day could feel a lot different, right? But they're still perceived on how they have presented on the day and what their external environment is like. They are still working at their perceived 7 out of 10, okay? It could just change depending on what they've done on the day. So if someone's had really good sleep, low stress, gotten good food, gotten regular movement in, that 7 out of 10 could feel super easy. But on a day where they've, I don't know, the kids are sick, work's high stress, they've had shitty sleep, haven't had the best food or whatever in the last couple of days, that 7 out of 10 could all of a sudden feel a lot different, okay? But you're giving them a constraint saying, this exercise is meant to feel at a 7 out of 10, you're gonna show me the output for the day, okay? Again, very repeatable, works with all exercises. Again, it can take a bit of time to understand, and there is more education and learning involved with this, because some people like having the scales there to say, all right, this is what a 7 should feel like. Again, but both of these methods are not, say, like, there's no like science saying that this should feel like a 7, if that kind of makes sense. What we're doing is trying to create a stimulus that we think is appropriate, and then just applying it. Whereas like this percentage of percentage RM is kind of pretty science-based in the fact that based on the percentage you can do this amount of reps. Whereas the RPE-based approach and the RR-based approach is, a lot of it is being driven by the individual. Being like, this is how you feel on the day, I still want you to work at a 7 out of 10. What does it look like for today? So how it can kind of look as an example. Again, the good thing about Kahunas is that you can have like a few of these variables in at the same time. So I've given this client a trap bar deadlift. Weeks 1 to 4, they're going to be working in an RPE 6. Weeks 5 to 8, they're going to be working in RPE 7. Weeks 8 to 12, they're going to be working in an RPE 8. Then for their other exercises or their accessories, they've got a reps in reserve component with that. I've given them rep ranges to work in, right? But it should feel like whatever rep range or whatever weight you're finishing at and the rep number you work at, I want you to feel like you've got something like 3 reps left in the tank. Yeah. So that's like, again, they can increase, they can, mid-grip like pull down, him up to 50 kilos, get to 12, feel like he's got more than 4 or 3 reps left in the tank, puts it to 55, resets, goes, okay, I did 10 reps and that feels like a 3 rep left in the tank. So that's what his 3 reps in between that 8 to 12 mark can feel like. So all of these models can work together The one thing that I would say is, like, this person's now been working with us for, since I started, so nearly 6 months. So, but this wasn't this person's program when we started, right? I wouldn't have even used RPE, I just used this. Just the double progression stuff, okay? Once they get comfortable in understanding those different variables, then you can start to add layers, okay? But I wouldn't do something like this at the start, because it's just like, you want me to work at an RP7, but I've got 5 reps left in the tank, and it's anywhere between this number to that number, it's a little bit too confusing. Just add layers. To summarize, there are many tools in your toolbox to use when it comes to programming. Remember, how you create tension doesn't matter, but to keep making changes, we need to apply progressive overload. Okay, remember, muscles dumb meat, all it does is contract and relax. How you place tension on the system doesn't matter, but how you progress it might matter more. Find a method that allows you to make quick wins. This is one of my tips. If you make quick wins, you can build better buy-in, increases retention, particularly early on. If they can see that they're making changes from a program point of view, chances are that they're going to stay. Right? They can already start to see changes from what they're doing from an exercise point of view. Yes, the original reasons to why they have come in, you may not have addressed yet, particularly if it's like a long-term chronic thing. But they can see that the plan's working, or that I am getting stronger because this week I did this week I did that. Okay? The one thing that I don't like about Kahunas, shouts out Matt, is that when you log the exercise for one day and you come back and do it another day, it shows you what you did the previous week. So people then think, because I did 3 sets of 6 at 10 kilos for this exercise, I'm going to do 3 sets of 6 at 10 kilos for this week, for the next time. And then they do it the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time. That's the one thing I don't like about Kahunas, right? Because it almost like auto-populates it for you. All it's doing is telling you what you did the previous day, right? So particularly from a semi-private training point of view, what I like to say is, whatever it says in your last one, that's what you're going to do in your first set, and you're going to make any changes based on that, okay? So if that feels hard, keep doing that. If that last set feels easy,
Make it harder.
do something about it to make it harder, right? That's the only thing that I don't necessarily like about Kahunas, is that it like pre-populates it and clients think, this is what I'm going to do for today, kind of thing. Whereas I'm like, no, you're going to do the last set as your first one, and then make any changes you need, okay? All these methods have positive and negative things about it. I don't know if negative is the right word, but they'll have pros and cons to them. One method may be better for a specific client demographic at a specific time. So you may find if clients early doors really want to know numbers, you might do an estimated 1RM test and use that as their programming method, right? Then when they start to see progress, you may then change to a reps in reserve scheme or something like that, right? You just have to just be, what's the word? Just be aware that not all models work for the same people. Some people respond differently to other things. Okay? Multiple methods can be used in conjunction. Just be aware again of like information overload. So not adding too many layers to people's program. And making sure that what you're trying to do with them from a stimulus point of view, they understand based on the model that you've given them. You're not giving them too many bits of things to think about when they come in and train. Give them one thing and make them get really good at it. And then if they understand that really well, then you can start to add in another small component if you feel like that is relevant. Okay? I've got a saying that we used to say at my old workplace, is that you can't go wrong getting strong. Right? So I've never met anyone who has said that they feel worse off for being stronger, fitter, or more mobile, even though their goal may not have been achieved. Right? So I've never met anyone who has said, Adam, I'm stronger because I've come into the MK movement community and started training. I hate that about me. Or I feel shit because I all of a sudden can sleep better, I've got a better exercise routine, I'm more mobile and fitter and stronger, whatever. I've never had anyone complain the fact that they are a better version of themselves, right? So again, like this is something that you and I have talked about when clients come in for, say, a certain goal, and we know that there's like many things that a regular exercise program can have. This is where I think stuff like if you perform a regular exercise program, there's a lot of good things that can happen outside of the thing that you have specifically come in for. And something that I've done, implement, modify, reapply. Implement a strategy, modify it, reapply it, right? So like the way that I communicate with clients about RPEs may not be the way that you do it, and that's fine as long as the message gets across. But I've definitely rejigged the way that I've done my programming stuff, and I hope that in a few years that I continue to rejig it. Right? I learn something new, maybe apply the same thing in a different way that maybe gets me a different outcome. But apply a method. If it doesn't work, doesn't mean it's broken. You just might need to tweak something, or pick a different model and see if you get the same. See if you get different results. Right? That's it.
That was really good.
Zach, can you stop the recording?
Um,
Question.
I like the double